Show yourself to me.
You are unusual. Join me.
You know what to do.
Restock weapons and ammo! Now!
Serve me. I am your only hope of salvation. Your destroyer, your maker. Only the righteous will escape damnation. Strike down my enemies, and you will be forgiven.
We have to look at the literary and philosophical context that Pullman is drawing from here. His Dark Materials is famously a response to John Milton's Paradise Lost, the epic poem that tells the story of Satan's fall from heaven, and the temptation of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Milton's poem is a deeply religious work that seeks to justify the ways of God to men. It frames Satan as a tragic villain, a proud and rebellious angel who is cast out of heaven for his defiance. Even as Milton gives Satan some of the most iconic lines in the poem, he ultimately frames his rebellion as a sin, as an act of pride and evil that leads to the fall of man. Pullman does the exact opposite. He flips Milton's entire narrative on its head. In his Dark Materials, Satan figure, Lord Asriel, is the hero of the story. His rebellion is not a sin. It is the ultimate act of moral courage. His defiance of the authority is not an act of pride. It is an act of liberation. Pullman does not seek to justify the ways of God to men. He seeks to condemn them, to expose the tyranny of divine rule, to celebrate the act of defiance, the pursuit of knowledge, the right to choose. Asriel's rejection of the kingdom of heaven is Pullman's middle finger to Milton's religious orthodoxy, to the thousands of years of religious doctrine that frames obedience as virtue and curiosity as sin. This is not just a literary reference. It is the core of the entire story. Asriel's rebellion is the same rebellion that Satan attempted in Paradise Lost. But where Satan failed, Asriel intends to succeed. Where Satan's rebellion was driven by pride and a desire to seize the throne for himself, Asriel's rebellion is driven by a desire to destroy the throne entirely, to build a world where no one rules over anyone else, where every individual is free to choose their own path. That is the key difference between Asriel and Milton's Satan. Asriel is not fighting to replace one tyrant with another. He is fighting to end tyranny entirely. Of course, this is a deeply controversial premise. Pullman's books were banned in countless schools and libraries across the United States and around the world. They were condemned by the Catholic Church and countless other religious organizations, who saw the story as a direct attack on Christianity, on religion itself. And they were not wrong. Pullman has been open about his atheism, about his criticism of organized religion, about his belief that religious authority is inherently oppressive, that it crushes free will, that it stagnates human progress. And Asriel's war on the kingdom of heaven is the purest expression of that belief. It is a direct challenge to the very idea of religious authority, to the idea that any god, any church, any institution has the right to tell people how to live, what to believe, how to think. This is what gives the story its weight, its power, its relevance, even decades after the books were first published, and years after the television adaptation concluded. The themes of his Dark Materials are more relevant than ever. We live in a world where authoritarianism is on the rise, where institutions seek to control what we read, what we learn, what we believe, where free will and free thought are under attack from all sides. Asriel's rebellion is not just a fantasy story, it is a mirror held up to our own world, a call to question authority, to reject blind obedience, to fight for the right to think for ourselves, to choose our own destiny, to understand the cosmic stakes of the war. We also have to understand the multiverse that Asriel is fighting for. Pullman's His Dark Materials is built on the idea of infinite parallel worlds. Every choice we make splits the universe into two. One where we made the choice, one where we did not. There are infinite worlds, infinite versions of ourselves, infinite possibilities, and the authority's regime stretches across every single one of them. His agents are active in every world. His church, his magisterium, enforces his rule in every society they can reach. He has spent thousands of years trying to contain the multiverse, to control it, to keep the people in every world separate, obedient, trapped. Asriel's war seeks to break down those barriers, to unite the people of every world against the common enemy of the authority, to build a multiverse where people can travel freely, learn from each other, grow together, evolve together. He is not just fighting for the freedom of one world, he is fighting for the freedom of every world, every sentient being, every possible version of ourselves. That is the scale of the stakes here. This is not a war that affects just one planet, one universe. This is a war that will decide the fate of every single thing that exists, across the entire infinite expanse of the multiverse. We also have to understand that this is not a war that can be won by force alone. Asriel assembles a massive army, made up of beings from countless worlds, angels who have rebelled against the authority, witches from the north, soldiers from every corner of the multiverse, even ghosts from the land of the dead. He builds a fortress in the void between the worlds, a bastion of defiance against the kingdom of heaven. He wages brutal battles against the authority's armies, against the angels, against the forces of the magisterium. But the real war is not fought with bullets and bombs and swords. It is fought with ideas, with truth, with the courage to question, to reject, to defy. The authority's power is not built on his army, or his magic, or his divine might. It is built on belief, on the belief that he is the rightful ruler, that he is the creator, that he has the right to command, that obedience is virtue, that free will is sin. Asriel's greatest weapon is not his army. It is the truth that the authority is not the creator, that he is a liar, a fraud. The truth that people do not need a god to tell them how to live, that they are capable of making their own choices, of defining their own morality, of building a better world on their own. This is what makes the war so profound, so meaningful. It is not just a physical war. It is an ideological war, a philosophical war, a war for the very soul of sentient life. Asriel is not just trying to defeat an army, he is trying to change the way people think, the way they see the world, the way they see themselves. He is trying to break the cycle of fear and obedience that has trapped sentient beings for thousands of years. He is trying to give them the courage to be free. Of course, this level of ambition comes with terrible risks, terrible sacrifices. Asriel is not a perfect hero, far from it. He is a deeply flawed, deeply complicated man. He is capable of incredible cruelty, of unthinkable acts, all in the name of his greater cause. He is willing to sacrifice anything, anyone, to win this war, to free the multiverse from the authority's tyranny. And that is the other side of the cosmic stakes, the cost of freedom, the price of rebellion. We will dive deep into that cost in the next chapter, when we unpack the sacrifice of Roger Parslow, the innocent boy whose death opens the gateway to the multiverse.